Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Monday, January 16th edition of our video devotionals. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's also Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so that means some of you are not at work today, and I'm sure some are not at school either. So it's, I guess, technically not the beginning of the work week or school week. Tomorrow will be. But at any rate, if you're working or not, it is Monday. We call it Marvelous Monday, so we hope this can be a good Monday for you. I'm doing a lot better. I appreciate the prayers through my sickness. I guess this kind of began for me back last maybe Thursday or Friday a week ago. And so about almost 10 days of this stuff. I'm not 100%, but I am much better. And even from yesterday, I went to church and kind of stayed away from everybody, but I preached like I always did in the morning and our afternoon service at 5 and had our business meeting. So it was a regular day, but I could feel how tired I was from being sick and being laid up. And of course, when you've got all this stuff in your lungs, I'm sure you're probably not taking in as much oxygen. So you probably are just weary just from the coughing and all of that and the lack of rest even. So all that to say, many of you know what I'm talking about. So, but I do feel much better even today. But I appreciate the prayers. Appreciate my wife being the great nurse that she's been for me. I pray, and if you'll pray with me that she doesn't get sick, I greatly appreciate that. And then let's be in prayer. There's a family I mentioned before. In fact, I think even Friday, that yesterday they had their last of what would be the memorial service for their 34-year-old son that passed. Continue to be in prayer for that family. And I know it's hard for anybody when loved ones pass, but, pray for them. They're faithful to watch these videos. As it goes, I believe we make it through things. And I know God helps us make it through things, but he helps us through the prayers of God's people for sure. So continue to pray for them. And then another friend of mine who's actually a friend of a friend. I didn't know this man very well. I know him, and he's a good man. He knows me. We know each other, but I got to know him through college, through him being a friend of others that I was friends to. But the point is, his wife is what we call at the point of death, and she's, unless God steps in and performs a miracle, then she'll be not in this world very much longer. And I'm asking you to pray for him. He watches these videos from time to time, and he's been a faithful pastor. He works full time in the ministry there in Northwest Indiana, and so they're good people. And I know it's not just because they're good people, but these are faithful servants of the Lord. And we all need grace, and God said He would provide it. But if you'll pray for this man in the passing of his wife and also their children, everybody that's involved, and I know they'll feel your prayers. All right, so we're in Genesis 48. Tomorrow we'll finish up Genesis, but today in Genesis 48 we're going to read verses 8 through 11 and just give you an insight here. And again, thank you for all who do watch these. I will say this: I don't have anything to give you today regarding our Today book. I just don't have it. If you'll Google, like I did, what happened in today's history, I believe in 1991, it was the beginning on this date of the Persian Gulf War. So at least I do have one entry. There was a few other things I noticed, but I do remember that one because I remember when being in college when that actually happened. I remember that. All right, so it says here in Genesis 48:8, and Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, "Who are these?" And Joseph said unto his father, "They are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place." And he said, "Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them." Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, "I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath showed me also thy seed." Well, we know that, of course, Jacob eventually gets down in Egypt because Joseph reveals himself to his brothers who have come into Egypt to get food because of the great famine. And they have no idea who he is at first. He knows who they are, and there's a lot of things that happens there. But eventually he says, "Okay, look, I'm Joseph, and this is what you've done to me. But look, here I am, and we're going to go forward from this point." So Dad and everybody else comes down into Egypt, and at this point, Israel, who's Jacob, but I love the fact here that from this reading right here, the name Jacob's not used as Israel. And God says, "I'm going to change your name, Jacob, to Israel." And, to this day, this is what the nation is named after. It's named after Israel, which I think is unique in and of itself of all the people to kind of have the namesake for the country. It's Jacob or Israel here. So his name is Israel mentioned here, but he's dad. He's dad to Joseph, and Joseph is is second in command in Egypt, and he's a very powerful person. But here's a conversation between a son and a dad, and the two sons of Joseph. And it's interesting to me that, the Bible says that the eyes of Israel were dim for age so that he could not see. And yet he says, God has allowed me to see thy face. And I don't know how much he can see literally, but the point is he knows it's his son. He's right there, whether he can see and make the physical characteristics out or not. And then he says something very interesting. He says, look, I not only am able to see you, but I'm able to see your seed, which is these two sons here, Ephraim and Manasseh. So I think in the practical sense here, it's a blessing that all of us, first of all, if you can see, literally, as I look around, I see my property here. You can see the background here. It's not a wooden jail, by the way. Country people know what this is. I'm not knocking city folk, but this is what's called a corn crib. And this is where corn was put after it was harvested to lay up, and it was used for feeding animals and seed corn, all that kind of stuff. But it's a corn crib. And, I can see that. I remember as a kid, I saw that. We played around, me and my brother, this building right here. We played in this thing many a time. My grandfather had all kind of things put away, and we'd make stuff. And just, so I've been able to see and enjoy seeing things. I can see now, even though I've got these readers here, it does help, but I can see pretty well. But I can see. But there's also things that God has shown me and God has shown you that we see through the mind's eye or through the spiritual eyes that God gives us. And it's interesting here that, you can imagine when Israel was first told, hey, and imagine the reaction. How in the world could he be alive? You, my sons, you told me, you found the code, you saw the blood, and how in the world can Joseph even be alive? Imagine how that conversation went, and then they had to explain that, and then of course for him to say, wow, he's alive, I'm gonna be able to go see him, and they loaded up them wagons in Canaan and went down into Egypt. Imagine how he's thinking about that, and then he says, I'm able even to see your children. I didn't think I'd ever see you again, except in heaven, of course. And in his mind, he's thinking, my son never had children, never was able to enjoy the things that Dad did, and even the other brothers would. And yet, here's Joseph. He's in Egypt, and Dad can see him, and he actually sees his seed too. So, I guess here's the thing. Let's be thankful for what God shows us and the things we see, spiritually or even physically, and then all the things yet that could not even come into our mind that God will reveal to us. It does say, eye hath not seen nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things that God hath prepared for them that love him. And that's in this life. I know there's a heaven, there will be things we'll see and all of that. There's things now. So just as you walk with God and you live for God, then you anticipate God showing us things and revealing things to us that we just never thought would have happened or was even possible. In this case, Dad sees his son again in this life, thinking, wow, I thought you were dead, son. And then here we are. I can even see your children. So what a blessing. So we're going to close on that today. Tomorrow we'll end chapters 49 and 50 as we close out the very large but the very first book of the Bible. And I hope you have a great day today. Be safe and healthy. If you're sickly like I've been, I hope you get better soon. But otherwise, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.